What's up, guys and gals of the Movement World? It's Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi, coming to you once again on behalf of Football Beyond the Stats in our deep dive into our 2022 Mover of the Year, Travis Kelce, tight end of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, we look at this Week 4 matchup on Sunday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, obviously a team that the Chiefs had faced just a number of years back at the Super Bowl. Actually, obviously gave up the victory there against the Buccaneers a number of years back. And what we look at here is obviously, again, pressure, anxiety. The lights are on, the lights are at their brightest. It's Sunday Night Football. We've talked about that in the past, how those primetime games and that primetime type of matchup will bring out the best out of the most skillful, dexterous performers. Remember, from Bernstein's definition, dexterity, the highest expression of one's movement skill, being about the ability to solve any emerging movement problem in any situation, so across problems, and in any condition, so across these types of environmental conditions. That could be surface, but it also could be the bright lights and what some of the social cultural constraints may bring. So we look at this play. It's early in the game. The Buccaneers had actually just turned over, I think, the opening kickoff, and the Chiefs here are on an early game drive. So let's look at this. Obviously, here's Kelce at the top of your screen, split wide right. And obviously, as we know by now, Kelce has moved all over the formation, and rightfully so, based on his versatility, based on his the diversity of the things that he can do and the mismatches that he can create, and obviously that the master tactician Andy Reid can create, along with Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. So let's look at it one more time through here at full speed before we get into our 50% speed. There are going to be some things that we see from Travis Kelce's authenticity, as we have throughout this deep dive. However, and again, that's the calling card of his movement skill. But here, there are going to be some things that I'd like to mention that he may be able to consider doing just a tad differently when we think about his movement problem-solving story and how he's coordinating, controlling, and organizing degrees of freedom perceptually, intentionally, and from a motor system or action standpoint. So let's go ahead and get into the 50% speed here, try to tell the story from his perspective, put ourselves within his human movement system, as we see the turnover there as they fumbled the opening kickoff. So we see this type of route, especially on second and short or second and medium, even on 1st and 10, we see it from the Chiefs, where Travis Kelce is going to find these soft spots within the defense where it's an easy first down. It's an easy read for 15 Patrick Mahomes, but it's also very easy for Kelce to do what he does. We see him right here. And obviously, these are two of the better linebackers in the entire National Football League in 54 and 45. So we see 45, we see 54, two guys that have actually found themselves on our all-movement team, my all-movement team, in the past. And so this is obviously formidable situation and opponent. But look at Kelce as he, these are option routes for Kelce more than they would be for most performers at the tight end position. Most performers here aren't going to be as attuned, as sensitive to dealing with multiple information sources. Where's the soft spot within the defense? What is the space calling for me to do? How are other bodies, the opponents, behaving? Remember, behavior forwards behavior. So we see Kelce right here, right off the bat, with, he's probably going to have some liberty in regards to what he does and how he does it based on how numerous people are performing or playing this. And as that defense, the tactics that they're employing unfold, Kelce then will be channeled into behaving in a certain way. And obviously, he and Patrick Mahomes are on the same page because of all of their reps, all of their time, all of their exposure working together and alongside of one another in these situations. So Mahomes likely knows exactly what Kelce has intended to do, and he waits for Kelce to behave accordingly. And I would just want to go back just a little bit here. Again, I don't want you to miss the fact that Travis Kelce isn't just running this play based on the way that the playbook is telling him to. He has options, and those options are going to be dependent on how 45 is behaving, how 54 is behaving, and likely what space is afforded to him. He's going to it. And you can see him once he makes that decision to go in that direction. It's not like he stops picking up these information sources. Again, I don't want you guys to miss this. Remember, we perceive to act, we act to perceive. So not only dealing with 45, but one of the things that makes Travis Kelce special is his ability to connect to multiple perceptual information sources at the same time. So he might be looking at 45 out of his periphery. He likely is also taking in, and I'm not going to suggest he's taking in 54 because that's pretty far to the side of his periphery. I'm guessing that, that might be just out of his length. But remember, he ran into the space and knows where 54 about where he was. When I say he knows about where he was. But one of the things that makes him special is he has this sort of like aura about him where he can connect to where guys are when he can't see them. So both eyes in the back of his head as well as in the side of his helmet, if you will. It almost appears as such with many of these types of plays or plays like it. And so he can feel from a kinesthetic sense and awareness standpoint what is to his right side and over his right shoulder. So he's able to pick up where 54 is. And he uses that to then channel and guide his actions. Now, can he pick something up to his periphery? The answer is yes, likely. But what that information is, or that affordance, that opportunity to act actually is the space. And he uses this to channel subsequent actions in a very prospective, an anticipation, if you will, and an online, what is happening? What is there? What is there? And the what is, if you will, from a Bruce Lee standpoint. And so he commits then, puts that right foot into the ground and gets into these early acceleration steps where 54 isn't able to keep up with him, obviously, because he guessed that option route incorrect. Watch 54 in relation to 87, and he guessed wrong. And Kelce then goes to the space where Mahomes leads him to, where now he knows right as soon as he catches the ball that there is a bunch of green grass out here. So even though, as we've alluded to, or as we will allude to in other deep dive analysis videos here through this Travis Kelce Mover of the Year analysis, is he is often very motivated and very invited by space, but also always having this local intention oriented around picking up the first down. So he is as first down hungry or is driven as there gets in the league. So he wants that first and foremost, and he behaves oftentimes, sometimes to a detriment, as we're going to highlight in what would we do if we partner together. What would I do personally if Kelce and I ever partner together? We'll get into that a little bit as I kind of peel back the layers as to what I might like to see him do in some situations. But this space is beckoning him. It's inviting him, right? And he is running to it. Again, it's shared affordances as well with Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes has to lead him right into that space as well. But Kelce, knowing full well that if he can get into this space, now he gets his playmaker hat on. I mean, we're looking at numerous opportunities to act, numerous affordances, right? And there will be a rich landscape of these affordances as he perceives them wider, longer, deeper, and then richer, filling in those details. There's going to be something else I'm going to point out here. I highlight as to why Travis Kelce is really my mover of the year for 2022. And it is all stemming from his authenticity and his adaptability. He is the most adaptable tight end playing the game, bar none, but he might actually be one of the most adaptable players at any position playing the game. And we're going to see it on display here, which combines with his authenticity, but it actually might show us where there is a bit of a gap yet in his perceptual attunement, his sensitivity to picking up how someone else is behaving, both a teammate as well as a defender. But let's look at some of the affordances that might be here. Again, when I say affordances, we're talking about opportunities to act, right? We see space and we see space, which he may or may not pick up. Remember, this is all about authenticity. We see this behavior, affording behavior because of this dyadic relationship. Let's get my stars out. Hopefully you guys can see that. His teammate, and then a Buccaneer defender. And then we see a number of defenders that might present threats or might remove affordances, right? And so then we also have to think about what is beyond this dyadic relationship, which is more space, okay? All of this is the rich landscape of affordances. And it's up to the most skillful and dexterous performer to perceive what is most inviting for them based on their action capabilities, but also their perceptions, their intentions or their thoughts or their aims to act, and then ultimately their action capabilities. What movement strategies, what movement tools do I have available to me? And so we see Kelce get a little bit fixated at times on two things, essentially, and he isn't as attuned or sensitive as he needs to be into how they might be offering him to act. So we see him here in this situation get awfully locked in to that immediate opponent, and he's picking up where that opponent is going so he can organize his own action, which sometimes he is over-reliant on strength, or what I would refer to as strength or power-oriented strategies, either trying to truck the guy, his patented stiff arm that he puts out as not only a feeler, but as a distance keeper. And he uses that because he knows it's in his toolbox, right? But if we look at that, what could have potentially unfolded here, if he wasn't as fixated as he needed to be, we know that there are potential opportunities which might have represented easier ways to score. And ultimately, he is looking to put someone on his poster. And it works in many cases. We've seen it numerous times in previous movement plays of the week. We've seen it from him when I haven't featured him. His hurdle, his jump move, even just trucking somebody, being able to string movement patterns or movement strategies rather together. And it's all authentic. So it's up to him. Remember, he is the honest, creative, authentic individual. And who am I to say from afar that he should have done something different? It's just that if he and I were working together, I would nudge him into finding more ways. Let's call them easier ways, passive least resistance here, as to how he might be able to act in a similar behaving movement problem to this. Ultimately, he finds himself into a functional movement solution, right? He scores here. So that means it's practical, it's useful, and it's relevant in this situation. And then again, it's authentic to him. I never want to strip a player of their authenticity. But what we would like to do is get more diversity as well as a more closely, tightly coupled functional behavioral fit between solution and problem. And I feel like there might have been an opportunity for that here, but he scores anyway, right? He takes off from the freaking 4-yard line here. And like, look at the novelty, the creativity. These are things that are calling cards of Travis Kelce and who he is. But right here, if he were truly as sensitive as I would like him to be to specifying information sources, particularly about how this guy is positioned, his kinematics, his mechanics, his posture, and look at where he only has the capability of going, he being the opponent. The opponent only has the opportunity to basically go in one of these number of spots, right? And Kelce is now still at an interpersonal distance between he and, it's not just about he and the opponent, but it's he and his teammate. Okay. So those things, those items of that dyadic relationship are both specifying informational sources. And of course, he might still feel David coming behind. Okay. So he likely still has this kinesthetic sense and awareness in regards to 54 coming behind him as a chasing, trailing defender. And that might have shaped his movement actions. Like he doesn't want to stop his feet here and necessarily go back to his right, even though I'm sort of suggesting that that opportunity could have been equally as inviting or maybe more inviting, simply because of the way that this immediate defender in front of him is behaving, right? But instead, Kelce sometimes likes to do this in his really authentic way. Remember, it's the creative, honest, authentic individual who's trying to express themselves through their movement skill. Like he still has an opportunity to cut back to his right. And especially with the way that this relationship is playing out, look at the teammate, look at the opponent. It would be very, I don't want to say the word easy here because we're talking about doing this in a online fashion. This is happening quickly and rapidly. So I don't want to take that away from Travis Kelce either. But the opportunity to put somebody on a poster is an opportunity that Travis Kelce often cannot pass up. Sometimes it gets him into trouble, and other times it gives him the opportunity to go dance. And obviously, once you've earned that right, scoring in the National Football League is not easy. So go dance 87, go put your stamp upon the game. Let's look at it from a couple another of angles here. I think we get two, maybe even three. Look at that behavior affording behavior. Again, we always talk about this. It's in how somebody else on a football field or someone else's, meaning multiple parties, are behaving that will channel our actions. And we see 54 move in that direction. Lavonte David, again, one of the most skillful to have done it over the last decade, but he's up against the most skillful to maybe ever do it at the tight end position. And you're going to sometimes get got, right? But we see it here again as we watch this now in slow motion. He is so fixated on 26, that immediate local movement problem and defender, that he potentially misses other opportunities to act, or he misses potential information pickup that was there about how that defensive back was behaving. Now, in Travis Kelce's defense, typically against linebackers who are less athletic, less skillful in these types of interactions, he is able to pick up their movement behaviors. But when it's a guy who's smaller, when that presents another opportunity or affordance to act, strength and power oriented strategy, going through the guy, trucking the guy, stiff arming the guy, or potentially a defensive back who's smaller and is going to lower their levels, where Travis Kelce can then go over. Like, these are still affordances that he's perceiving and picking up, and he's choosing to act upon in an authentic way. So again, I don't want to take any of those things away from him, because this is still a play that features the highest level of skill in the game, that is Travis Kelce, particularly in 2022 and at this position. It's just something that I needed to get off my chest, because I think there are some times that his adaptability could be channeled in slightly different ways, that he could put highlights together in maybe a wider breadth, a diversity of ways here as well. So a bunch of different cool nuances here that we see from Travis Kelce, our 2022 Mover of the Year. I hope you're enjoying this deep dive. I hope you keep going with them if this wasn't the last one in the list for you. Keep going along this journey with me as we dive deep down the rabbit hole of the movement skill of Travis Kelce.